Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Andrea and I film videos all about cruelty-free beauty products. Today's video is going to be a review on the new Too Faced Tutti Frutti collection. I have been anticipating this collection ever since I saw photos. I want to say a few months ago. I talked about it in a purchase or pass video and I was really excited about it. I thought it looked colorful and fun and I was definitely planning on picking up a few things, but they did send the collection to me in PR, which was awesome because I wanted to be able to review everything for you guys. I tried everything out multiple times so I can share a really thorough review on which products worked and which ones didn't. I have products that I love that I totally recommend and products that I just would not recommend to you guys. So I hope you enjoy today's video. If you do like it or you find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. And if you plan on grabbing anything from this collection, let me know in the comments below. But let's jump into it and I'll chat about the products. So this collection is actually an Ulta exclusive, so you can find it at Ulta on their website or on the Too Faced website. I will link Too Faced website as well as Ulta's in the description box below, and I will put timestamps next to all of the products mentioned if you guys want to jump ahead. But let me kick it off with the Do You Full Coverage Fresh Glow Foundation. So you get 1.35 fluid ounces, which is a little bit more than the typical foundation, and it retails for $36. So the price point's not bad for a high-end foundation. There are 20 different shades in this line, and it's supposed to be a dewy, fresh, luminous foundation that's supposed to hydrate and brighten the skin. And the formula is really interesting. Now, I personally have oily skin, but at the same time, I really like hydrating products. So the fact that it was full coverage and glowy really appealed to me, and I definitely wanted to try it out. The majority of the products in this collection are fruit scented, so I will touch on that as we go through because some people do enjoy scents, some people don't. This one is pretty heavily scented. It smells like a mix between watermelon and cucumber. It actually smells really good and I do enjoy the scent, but once you apply it and if you set it, you can't really smell it throughout the day. So the scent is pretty strong when you first apply it, but it doesn't linger. Okay, so let me show you guys how the product applies in an application clip, and I will start with the pros. A little bit goes a very long way. This foundation goes on so beautifully. It blends beautifully, it's so smooth and even, and it looks really gorgeous, and I just think it's very easy to apply. It doesn't cling to certain areas on your face. It's not streaky or patchy. I really like the formula. When you first put a little bit on the back of your hand, it's a thicker formula. It's kind of like a gel cream mousse hybrid. It's really interesting. So you think it's going to feel heavy on the skin, but it feels really lightweight and beautiful. And when you apply it, it looks dewy on the skin. It doesn't look oily. It looks really, really beautiful. Now I wear the shade Almond, which is the second or third shade, I believe, and it does oxidize. So moving into the cons, those are the pros. As for the cons, it does oxidize on the skin. So that can be a little bit difficult when you're trying to choose a shade because when you first apply it, it might look very light, but it will oxidize throughout the day. And honestly, it oxidizes almost immediately. For me personally, this foundation definitely has to be set. Now, I think if you have oily skin or dry skin and you don't typically set your foundation, you are going to love how this foundation looks on the skin because it looks really beautiful and naturally dewy without looking oily or greasy. But if you have oily skin and you typically set your foundation, I think that's a little bit of the difficult part because it takes away that natural dewiness and it looks matte. Obviously, I knew that going into it because I set pretty much every foundation, but some foundations or some primers can still look dewy underneath a powder. This one does not. So I think it looks best if you don't set it, but depending on your skin type, that might not be practical for you. My biggest issue with this foundation is that it's not a full coverage foundation. They claim that it's a full coverage foundation, but it's definitely more of a medium coverage foundation for me personally, and I don't find that it builds really well. You can build it up and it layers nicely on top of itself. It doesn't get cakey or look heavy, but it doesn't really build. It only goes to a medium coverage foundation. They also claim that it's a long wearing foundation, and I don't find it to be long wearing at all. At the end of 8 hours, a lot of it has worn off my face, and it's not that my skin looks really oily by the end of the day, which is surprising because it is more of a dewy foundation. It's just that the foundation wears away almost completely, and I'm just left with my bare skin. I don't really like it because I definitely prefer for my foundation to be full coverage, to be long wearing, but it's really neither one of those. And that would be fine, except for that's two of the main claims, that it's a full coverage, long wearing foundation. So I think it lives up to the dewy foundation claim. I think it looks really beautiful on the skin. It applies really beautifully, but it doesn't last throughout the day and it's definitely not full coverage. And the last con that I want to mention is the shade range. There are 20 shades, which is a good start, but I do think they're missing some lighter shades and some really deep dark shades. The variation within the 20 shades is pretty good, but they definitely could have done better with lighter and darker shades, because I think if you have a lighter skin tone, you're going to have trouble, and if you have a deep dark skin tone, you're going to have trouble as well. Okay, let me talk about the It's Bananas setting powder. This retails for $30 and you get 0.37 ounces. Now, there was a banana setting powder that was part of the Too Faced I Want Candy collection, which I did review on my channel a while ago. This powder is definitely different. I think that was more of a dry powder, and this one's more of like a soft silky powder. So this is supposed to be a weightless banana powder that really brightens and blurs imperfections and harsh lines. You can use it all over your face for like a really brightening effect, or you can use it under the eyes for a really beautiful like soft focus effect. And this one does smell like bananas. It's very subtle. It's not anything too overpowering or strong. It kind of reminds me of the banana runts, but I don't notice the scent once it's on the face. So let me start with the pros. This is a very soft silky powder. It applies really nicely and it's not overly powdery. It just goes on really beautifully. So I definitely like the texture of this product. I like using it for like to brighten up my under eyes. I also use it all over my face. It kind of matches my skin tone perfectly. So if you have a darker skin tone, it's going to brighten up your face even more. And if you have a lighter skin tone, it might be a little bit too dark for you. So that would have to be a con for me because there is only one shade. I think a lot of brands typically do one banana colored shade, but it's definitely not going to be universally flattering because it will be too dark for some of you and too light for some of you, so just keep that in mind. But it is a really beautiful, soft, silky powder. It works well to set everything into place. There is like an initial layer that you kind of have to get through because the first few times I used it, I thought the powder was really just so firmly pressed and I couldn't get a lot of powder onto my brush and I just didn't think it was working very well. But once you kind of work like the initial layer down, it works really well. So I do really like this product. I think it works well to brighten up my under eyes very subtly. It's not a super intense like bright white look. It's very subtle, very soft, and I think it looks really pretty. That being said, it's $30 and I use one from Essence that's like $5. So I don't see myself repurchasing this product because I can't justify spending 6 times the amount that I pay for the Essence powder. The Essence powder is a little bit more powdery though. So if you prefer more of like a silky smooth powder that doesn't kick up a lot of like powder into the air when you use it, this might be a more ideal option for you. It kind of depends on whether or not you're willing to spend the money. I haven't tried a lot of other yellow toned or banana toned powders, so I can't really compare it to any others, but the Essence one, like I said, is only $5 and that's a great option too. Okay, so let me touch on the 2 different eyeshadow palettes that are in the collection. I was really excited to try these out. I was planning on picking them up because I love Too Faced eyeshadow palettes, especially in 2018. I know some people just have very different experiences with their palettes, but this year I've really found that the formula is very consistent. And in terms of consistency, I mean the quality. Every palette's a little bit different in terms of formula, but I think the quality has been really good. So I was definitely curious to try these out. These are the first thing that I tried from the collection. So these retail for $34 each, and each palette comes with 0.21 ounces. Each palette comes with 7 different shadows, and there's a lot going on in these palettes. There are a lot of different textures, a lot of different finishes, so I'm going to talk about them individually. Let me start with the Razzle Dazzle Berry eyeshadow palette. So I actually filmed myself using this palette because I figured that a lot of the tutorials on YouTube would be using the other palette because that is more of a neutral palette, but I'm just really drawn to this palette because I love berries, I love pink, so I wanted to use it for you guys on camera and show you a look that you could get using it, and I think it performs so well. There are so many different textures in this palette that it's kind of crazy because there are only 7 shadows, but it works. It's just a cohesive palette. It works really well on its own to help you create a lot of beautiful looks just using this palette. You can get a lighter, more natural look or a dark, smoky look, and there's just a lot going on, but I love it. This palette is scented. It smells like berries. It's pretty strongly scented, but again, once the product is on your eyes, you can't smell it, which is good, but I know some people are not fans of scented eyeshadow palettes, so just keep that in mind. This first shade is a really beautiful satin, and it goes on the eyes really, really beautifully. It's great as an inner corner highlight, a brow bone highlight. There are 2 like just true matte shades in here, this one right here and this one, and they blend so easily. They're some of the best matte shadows that I've ever tried from Too Faced. They're not powdery at all and they work extremely well. They're just so high quality. I was so impressed by the formula. This darker shade is a matte shade as well, but it does have glitter in it, so it looks matte on the eyes, but you do have that sparkle, so just keep that in mind, but it performs the same way. This pink right here and then then this purple right here, they remind me a lot of the ColourPop Super Shock shadows, and they go on like a cream, but they look like a powder, like they dry down to a powder, and they apply best with your finger. I will say as I dip my finger into them or a brush into them, they almost cave in a little bit, so I don't know how much product you're actually getting, but I would just recommend going in with a light hand because a little bit goes a really long way. And then there is one true like metallic powder shadow that works really well too. So I am really impressed by this palette. I don't think any of the shades performed poorly. They blended extremely well, and if you are into berry tones or purples, I do recommend checking it out. Just keep in mind that there are a lot of different textures and finishes going on in one palette. It's not just like a matte and metallic palette. You get shimmers, cream to powders, mattes, and metallics, and there are only 7 shadows. But if you like purples and you like berries and you just want to create really beautiful looks using those colors, I do think it's a great palette. I totally think it's worth the money. $34 might seem a little bit pricey for 7 shadows, but honestly the quality is really good. I'm just impressed by it. As for the sparkling pineapple eyeshadow palette, everything that I said about that one pretty much applies to this one too, but the shades are a little bit different. You actually get a glitter shadow in here. So again, this one comes with 7 shadows. You get some really pretty warm neutrals, and then you also get a pop of color with the gold and green. So in this shade, you get 3 true matte shades. This color right here, which is great as a brow bone highlight to set the lid, to use as an inner corner brightening shade. This color right here, which is a pretty matte warm brown that I love using as a transition or in the crease. I am wearing that one as a transition color today. And then this darker brown right here, which I'm using in the outer corner and also in the crease just to make the look a little bit darker and dramatic. This shade right here is like a true satin shadow, so it's very subtle, but it's great all over the lid if you want more of a natural look or in the inner corner. This shade is interesting. It's called Sparkling Pineapple. It's what I have on my lid today. It's definitely a glitter shadow. So it comes in that like cream to powder type of texture, but it's infused with a ton of gold glitter. I think it looks absolutely beautiful. I just apply it with my finger. I don't experience any fallout, but it actually goes on really nicely with a brush as well, and it doesn't really fade throughout the day or fall onto your face throughout the day. I love the texture, but I could see a lot of people not necessarily loving it if you're not a fan of glitter. This last shade is like that cream to powder texture as well, but that one's just more of a metallic finish, so it looks really great in the inner corner. That's what I have in the inner corner today. The green shadow is kind of like this olive shade, but it also has a little bit of a bronze shift. I think it's more of like a duochrome shadow. It's a little bit subtle, but you can build it up. It's not anything too intense like the gold shadow, but I think it's really beautiful, especially if you layer it over a dark shadow because it kind of changes everything. So this palette's interesting. It looks like a typical neutral palette when you first glance at it, but it does have those 2 shades, the gold shade and the green shade, which switch things up a little bit. Now, if you have a lot of neutral eyeshadows in your collection, keep in mind that the majority of this palette is very neutral, and you can probably replicate a lot of the colors with palettes that you already own. But if you like neutral palettes, but you just want a little bit of a twist, then maybe you would really enjoy this, because whenever I do use this palette, I always reach for either the gold shade or the green shade, which help me to switch it up a little bit. So I do think these palettes are worth the money. I think they perform extremely well. Okay, let's talk about the Twinkle Twinkle liquid glitter shadows. There are 8 different shades. These retail for $22, and you get 0.21 ounces in each one of them. I have 7 shades, so I will swatch all of them for you and do close-ups so you can see what they look like and what they have available. These are supposed to be multi-dimensional high shine liquid glitter shadows. These are not scented, which is good because, I mean, I don't mind scented eyeshadows like powder shadows, but I don't typically prefer the rest of my eye products to be scented. As for the pros, there are some really beautiful colors and they go on really easily. They do last on the eyes without fading or creasing, and I don't experience any fallout with these, which is really good. Some glitter shadows you do experience fallout, but these do stay in place really well. They don't take forever to dry down, so you don't have to sit there with your eyes closed, and they perform well. I want to say that the cons outweigh the pros for me when it comes to this product for the price point. There are so many liquid glitter shadows on the market at this point that I have a hard time spending like over $20 on one, and it's not just Too Faced, but I don't typically buy like the Stila glitters or high-end glitters these days because there are so many affordable options. Now, the issue with this product is that it's more of a sheer wash of color, and I prefer glitter or metallic liquid shadows that have an opaque base because I don't always want to have to layer on shadow underneath to get that opaque finish. I do think this product has to be layered up a little bit. It's not super glittery upon initial application. And again, that might be because the base is pretty sheer, but I find that I have to go in with a few layers. And because this product is pretty liquidy, it tends to wear away any powder shadow that I have underneath. So even if I lay down like a base and I have shadows that are long wearing, when I'm constantly applying this brush to the lid, it just kind of washes away that color. So my entire eyeshadow look just looks a little bit patchy, a little bit uneven. So to be completely honest with you guys, I wouldn't really recommend spending $22 on these shadows. I just think there are so many other glitter shadows on the market at this point that you can find something that works really well at a more affordable price. Okay, let's talk about some cheek products. So there's one bronzer highlight duo in the collection. This one is the Pineapple Paradise Strobing Bronzer. It comes with two products. This one does retail for $30 and you get 0.28 ounces. This one has a pineapple scent, so it does smell like the eyeshadow palette, but it's not anything too crazy. Again, once it is on the face, you can't smell it. That applies to the rest of the products that I'm going to mention, except for the lip products. So I just wanted to throw it out there so I don't keep repeating myself. But this is a duo. So one side is a bronzer, one side is a highlighter. You can mix them together or wear them alone. And it's supposed to be a really velvety, soft, silky formula. So it is a satin bronzer and the highlighter is supposed to be pretty intense on the skin. So as for the pros, this product is really soft and really blendable. It's definitely easy to apply, so that makes it a great everyday product. You don't have to work to blend out the product. It just goes on really beautifully. It is very soft, very silky, very smooth. Even though it is a split pan product, I think the pans are big enough that you can go in with a fluffy bronzer brush or a highlight brush and use them separately, or you can mix them together. They do look really pretty mixed together. If you prefer a darker highlight, that's a great option. Or if you want a really, really super shimmery bronzer, then that's a good option as well. As for the cons, there is only one bronzer shade in the entire collection. So if you have a darker skin tone, it's probably not going to work for you. It matches my skin pretty well. So if you're like one or two shades darker than me, then I think you would enjoy it, but really any darker than that, and I don't think it's going to show up that well on your skin. If you have a lighter skin tone, it's probably going to be a little bit too dark for you. It is a very orangey bronzer, and these days I'm not really big into super orangey bronzers, so that is something to note depending on how you feel about very warm toned bronzers. The other con is that I don't find this to be a very long wearing product. The highlight actually wears pretty well. It stays in place well throughout the day, but the bronzer tends to wear off fairly quickly. So I do think that this is a pretty product. I don't think it's going to work for all skin tones, so definitely keep that in mind if you're planning on purchasing it. I think if you are looking for an easy everyday product that's really effortless and applies really beautifully with minimal effort, then you would really enjoy this. I like how you get the bronzer and highlighter in the same pan, and typically I'm not the biggest fan of like split pan products, but I do think it works in this instance. Okay, so one of the products that I was most excited to try out were the Fruit Cocktail Blush Duos. There are 4 different shades, and each shade comes with 2 different colors. So these are really interesting. Again, these retail for $30, and you get 0.22 ounces in each one. Okay, so like I said, there are 4 different duos, so I will do close-ups and swatches of each one. I will swatch the blushes alone, and then in the middle will be the color mixed together. So weirdly enough, even though they are only split pans, I think there are a lot of ways to wear these, because you can either layer them on top of each other, you can mix them together, you can wear them alone, you can wear one side as a blush and one side as a highlighter, and I've just been having a lot of fun using them and figuring out different color combinations within the one pan. These are supposed to give you buildable long wear color, and they are individually scented, so judging by the names you can probably tell what they smell like. I personally was excited to see bright colored blushes. I think a lot of brands do very subtle blushes, so these are going to work for you no matter what skin tone you have. If you have a light skin tone or a deep dark skin tone, I think you're going to be able to find one that works well for you. These are really soft and blendable and easy to use. They're really, really gorgeous, and they definitely are buildable. If the colors intimidate you at first, just keep in mind that you can go in with a light hand if you want more of a subtle blush, or you can build it up for more of a dark pigmented appearance. So as for the cons, you do kind of have to work through that initial layer, like I mentioned with the banana powder. I think it's just so that the pan doesn't break in shipping, but there is like an initial hard layer on these blushes, so just kind of work past that first, and then they will apply really well. There's actual glitter in all of these blushes, and some of them have more glitter than others. They are split pan blushes, so sometimes one side is like a shimmer or satin blush, and then one side is a pretty glittery blush. So if you don't like glowy blushes, shimmery blushes, glittery blushes, these are not for you. These are definitely one of my favorite products in the entire collection. They're just so beautiful, and it's refreshing to see a brand come out with like bold, intense blushes, because I think a lot of brands tend to do very subtle blushes, and subtle blushes don't work for all skin tones, and some people just want a more intense, bright, bold blush. If you like a good, glowy, shimmery blush like me, I do recommend these. I think you will absolutely love them. They're blendable and buildable and easy to work with and so much fun, and I just think they're some of my favorite blushes that I've tried in a really long time. Now, if you're into matte blushes, like I said, skip over these. You will not enjoy them at all, but I like that they're split pans, because even though they're $30, you do get two different colors and you can wear them different ways. So I think for $30, they're worth the money, because not only is the formula good, but you can wear them different ways, which I think is great. So I do recommend these. They're one of my favorite parts of the collection, and I just think they're so much fun. Okay, let's talk about the Tutti Frutti Frosted Fruits Highlighter Sticks. These also retail for $30, and you get 0.35 ounces. There are two different shades. The first one is Pink Lemonade, which is the lighter shade, and then the second one is Strawberry Sparkle, which is a little bit darker. So I will swatch them for you guys, but these are multi-use cream to powder highlighting sticks. They say that you can use them on your face, your body, your eyes. In general, I just wear them on the cheeks. They give you a really beautiful, like subtle, sparkly glow, but they do have a pink tint to them. They really surprised me. They're very, very soft, very blendable, so easy to use, and I actually just prefer to apply them directly to my cheek. You can use a brush, you can apply them to your finger and blend them out like that, but I think you get the best color payoff and the best pigmentation when you apply them directly to the cheek. So in the application clip, I'm actually wearing the shade Strawberry Sparkle, which is really beautiful. I would actually use it as a cream blush, and I have used it as a cream blush, and I love it because it's such a beautiful color. It just gives your skin a really beautiful pink glow. Pink Lemonade is definitely lighter and a little bit more gold toned, so if you have a lighter skin tone, you might enjoy that, but honestly, I think either one of them would work for either skin tone. It just depends on color preference. I know technically, according to makeup rules, Strawberry Sparkle is going to be too dark for some skin tones. It's probably technically too dark for my skin tone, but it's just makeup. You can wear it however you want to, and I do love wearing it as a highlighter as well. These products are really soft and really blendable. They're very, very creamy, so easy to work with. I think that cream products have come a long way, because in the past when I've tried cream products, I've had a hard time blending them out, but these go on top really beautifully. I actually apply them over powder and they don't cake up. They still blend really beautifully on top of powder. They do last really well throughout the day. You can build them up if you want more of an intense color payoff, and other products layer on top really beautifully. So if you layer a powder blush or a powder highlight on top, it looks really gorgeous and it doesn't cake up or look heavy. It just looks really, really beautiful. So I am impressed by the quality. I don't have a lot of cream products in my collection, so I don't typically know what the price range is for cream products, but I do think that these are really beautiful. So if you like cream products, I would recommend checking them out. Okay, let me finish up with the Juicy Fruits Comfort Lip Glazes. There are 12 different shades, and these are 0.24 fluid ounces. These retail for $20 each, and they have a good range from like lighter nude shades all the way into deep dark shades. The majority of the collection is really bright and colorful and bold and fun, and these are basically like liquefied lipsticks. They're very pigmented lip glosses. So they're really comfortable, they're really lightweight, they're very, very glossy. They're supposed to be long wearing and really comfortable, and they do have a pretty strong fruity scent. They smell really, really good. I love the scent. I think that the scent does linger, and I don't mind scented lip products, so I like how it smells good throughout the day. Okay, there are a lot of shades, so I'm going to do close-ups for you and swatches on the lips. I did apply all of the products to my lips, so I will show you what they look like. I think there are some really fun, bold, beautiful colors. They are extremely pigmented, so a very small amount goes a super long way. So I do think these products would last you a long time, because you just need a very, very small amount to get a pretty pigmented appearance. Some of the darker shades are a little bit streaky, so you would have to build them up, and honestly, I would recommend wearing them over a lip liner, especially the darker shades, because they do have a tendency to slip around because they are lip glosses. They're very plush, very comfortable on the lips. They feel really high quality and really, really beautiful, and they have a really beautiful sheen to them. Some of them do have like metallic glitter in them, which looks really beautiful on the lips. If you're into metallic lip colors, you're going to enjoy them, but even these shades that don't have like really intense metallic glitter still have a really pretty glaze or sheen to them. I find that they last on the lips pretty well compared to other lip glosses because they do have a lot of pigment. I think they wear off fairly slowly throughout the day, but you kind of have to check your lips in the mirror fairly often. I tend to get lip products on my teeth a lot. They tend to feather a little bit, so just kind of keep that in mind. And if you're wearing a darker shade or you want any of the shades to stay in place really well throughout the day, I would recommend using them with a liner. They definitely aren't transfer proof like I kind of touched on, but you will have to reapply them throughout the day at some point. Even though they last on the lips fairly well compared to other glosses, they don't last all day long and they will wear off eventually. And once they start to wear off, like the color fades, but the glitter stays behind, especially with the really metallic or glitter lip glosses. So that could be a pro for you because it does look like you have a really pretty sheen, but at the same time, once the color starts to wear off and the glitter's left behind, it can look a little bit weird at the same time. I personally don't reach for really intensely bold lip glosses because I think lip gloss can be a little bit high maintenance if it has a lot of pigment to it, because you always have to check to make sure it's still in place and it's not all over the place. But if you like pigmented or bold lip glosses, I do think you would enjoy the formula. It's fairly long lasting, it's really comfortable, it's not sticky at all. It goes on really beautifully and it feels really nice on the lips. Okay guys, that is the end of my review. I hope this video was helpful. There were a lot of products in this collection. Overall, I think they did something really fun, really interesting. It's a little bit different than a lot of the other collections out there. I love that there are bright, bold, fun colors. I definitely think there were products that were amazing. Like, I personally love the blushes. I love the eyeshadow palettes, but there were also products that I didn't think were worth the money, like the metallic liquid shadows and the highlighting drops. I didn't like the foundation, but I do think that could go either way. But anyways, I just wanted to share a full review on the collection. I hope this video was helpful if you are planning on trying anything. If you do, make sure to let me know on Instagram or YouTube or Twitter how you like the products, because I would love to hear from you guys. If you want me to review any other collections, let me know in the comments below, but I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.